What's going on, guys? Alex here with TFL Bike with some pretty exciting news because there is an all-new Triumph in the world today. That's right, it's the Triumph Trident 660. Triumph's new entry into the Middleweight Roadster category or Middleweight Naked Bike category, depending on what brand is talking about the segment. But I really like the segment. It's a super competitive one and one that I like a lot because I actually used to own a bike in this segment, which I'll get to a little bit later in this video. But yeah, this new Triumph Trident 660 takes more of a classic British styling approach to this Middleweight Roadster segment, and they're kind of throwing back to the original Triumph Trident. That original one came out in 1968 and was produced up until 1975, and a lot of people out there say that this was one of the best early Triumphs that the company ever made, and now they're bringing the name back to a more modern bike and a more modern segment. So yeah, let's take a look at the styling real quick. Like I said, it is much more British and much more old school than the other bikes in this segment from Yamaha, Kawasaki, and Honda. We have this big round LED headlight up front with the Union Jack flag in the middle. That's a classic Triumph thing. But even just looking at the bulb head on, it looks like a super cool mix of vintage and modern. I really like what they did there. Same thing around back in the tail section. Obviously all LED lighting, but it's kind of sculpted in this old school way. Looks much less sporty and much more stylish than the competition, and I think that is really cool. We actually just had a Triumph Speed Twin delivered to our office. We're doing a long-term review on that, so stay tuned for that. But I've been poking around up close with that Triumph, and the fit and finish on it is just amazing, and I expect no different from this new Triumph Trident. I expect all the parts to just feel super high quality and really just make you feel like you're on a much more expensive motorcycle than you are when you compare it to the Japanese competition. I really like the design of the tank. It also has this old school style with these kind of cutouts where your knees hug in, and there's just overall a lot of cool textures on this bike. Looking at some of these components up close, you can just tell that there is so much detail and so much thought, so much effort put into all of these components. I really like the styling on this bike. Interesting that Triumph decided to go retro for this bike, whereas their Speed Triple and Street Triple have more of the sport bike appearance. Over on the Yamaha side with the MT-07 and the XSR 700, you kind of have to pick between which styling you want, which is nice. But over here on the Triumph, you definitely get that old school styling, and I'm a fan of it. I think that matches the British theme pretty well. So there's all the styling, really good looking bike in my eyes, but there's a lot more to go through. Suspension, technology, engine, we're gonna get to all that, but before we do, I just wanted to let you know that this video is brought to you by Rider Justice.
Hey everyone, this is Case from TFL Bike with our Ride Smarter Tip of the Month brought to you by Rider Justice. Did you know that most drivers and motorcycle riders are underinsured? This can leave them unprepared for catastrophic medical and liability expenses as a result of an accident. Ride smarter. Make sure to have a minimum of $250,000 in underinsured coverage. You also want enough liability insurance to care for a passenger that may be injured while with you. And last, if you feel the urge to get out on your bike on a nice warm day this winter, activate your insurance before you hit the road. You'd be surprised how many riders forget this step and end up paying the price. To learn more, go to riderjustice.com, the champions of biker rights, on the road, in the courtroom, and now across the country.
So yeah, hope you guys are all staying safe out there on the road. Really important stuff, but now let's talk about this new engine. So it's a 660cc inline 3-cylinder, and that's pretty unique for Triumph. Of course, their Speed and Street Triple also use the 3-cylinder engine, so not much of a surprise that they're staying in that category, but it is very different from what Yamaha, Kawasaki, and Honda use. They're all using twins. Now it's based off of the Daytona 675 engine, but Triumph says that there are 67 new components in this engine, so it is changed quite a bit, and it does make 80 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque. How does that stack up to the competition? Well, it is more horsepower than the MT-07 and the Z650 from Kawasaki, but less torque, and then the Honda makes more power and about the same amount of torque as this Triumph, but the Honda's way more expensive. Triumph says that this new motor should be plenty punchy and should give you really linear power and torque delivery. Even when you're low in the rev range, they say that that low and mid power feel like a twin, but top end performance is like a 4-cylinder. We'll see if that's just a bunch of marketing terms or if that actually feels true out on the road, but I'm going to have to get on one of these to actually experience that for myself. You get an assist and slipper clutch and a 6-speed gearbox, and also there is an up and down quick shifter available as an option. It doesn't come from the factory, but you can add that on and you get that auto blipping feature for the downshifts, which is super cool. I love using that. Let's get to one of my favorite segments when we're talking about motorcycles, and that is technology. I'm always a sucker for tech, and there's a ton of it on this bike. First of all, the throttle is ride-by-wire, so it's all digital, and that means that you have different riding modes. So you have road and rain, only 2 modes, but that's more than some of the competition's going to give you. You also have switchable traction control in 2 different settings to adjust how much power is being sent to that rear wheel under different conditions. Also ABS, no cornering ABS, just straight up and down, but that's to be expected in such a budget motorcycle. We'll get to the pricing in a little bit. Full LED lighting all the way around, which is really nice to see. So LED headlight, LED taillight, as well as turn signals, which is pretty cool. And now let's get to the TFT dash. When I first saw this, I have to say it's probably one of my favorite parts of this bike. I really want to see it up close and personal to play around with it and actually feel it. But again, going with the whole theme of this bike, this dash really has that modern vintage look to it. It's round, it's old school, but it's fully digital and looks really cool. It's got this white on black kind of appearance that I'm always a fan of. And it gives you a lot of different options and controls. So you can get navigation on there, you can control your phone. And one of the coolest parts in my mind is there's actually a remote GoPro control. So if you like recording your rides, which I like doing, you can actually start and stop your GoPro right from the dash. And that is just so cool. I would love to play around with that. Up front, you're going to get Showa inverted forks. They're non-adjustable, again, to be expected on a budget motorcycle. Out back, you do get a adjustable rear shock, also from Showa. Nissin brakes up front with dual 310mm discs and Michelin Road 5 tires. I have a lot of experience with this tire, actually. I run it on my MT-09 right now. I think I went through 2 sets of them on my FZ07, and they're great tires. So I'm really glad to see that they're shipping from the factory with these. They are really good in the rain. They evacuate water really well, but they have plenty of grip and they're really sporty. You can ride really aggressively on them, so I like that. And you get that really wide 180 width rear tire on there. So I know a bike of this size doesn't really need the 180 width tire, but it looks cool, makes it look more aggressive, more performance oriented, and the competition does it, so I'm glad that Triumph is doing that as well. It looks to be a pretty narrow bike. I'll have to sit on it to actually see if that's true and see if it feels that way. Triumph says it is 416 pounds wet and ready to go. They say that this gives it best-in-class handling. So again, I'm going to have to get on the bike to actually experience that, but they say their bike handles much better than the Yamaha, the Honda, and the Kawasaki. Now, all the other competition in this segment is Japanese, and this is a British bike, so the question of serviceability and service costs definitely comes up in my mind, and Triumph says that they have a really low service cost for this bike. They say it's cheaper to work on this bike than the competition, and they have a class-leading service interval at 10,000 miles, so you should be able to go quite a ways without working on this bike and spend your money on gasoline rather than service bills. Now this bike will be coming in 4 colors. So the first one is Silver Ice and Diablo Red. I think that's the coolest looking color, and you kind of have the Union Jack flag on the side of the tank. You also have a matte jet black and matte silver ice, a crystal white, and a sapphire black as well. $7,995 MSRP, and they'll be available starting in January 2021, so not too far off. So yeah, just shy of $8,000. Let's see how that stacks up to the competition. The Yamaha MT-07 is $7,599. The Kawasaki Z650 ABS is $7,749. So this is just slightly more than the competition coming from Yamaha and Kawasaki. The Honda CB650R ABS is much more expensive at $9,199, but you do get more power with that bike. I actually used to own an FZ07, which is now called the MT07, so I'm pretty familiar with this segment of motorcycles. And it wasn't my first motorcycle, but I always thought that it would have been a great first motorcycle for someone learning how to ride. And I expect this to be the same way. You have what should be a really easy handling bike. Low seat height, 31.7 inches, pretty lightweight at 416 pounds. I think it should be a really exciting machine, and I would love to get my hands on it and just play around with it and see if it really just blows the competition out of the water. At this price point, if the fit and finish is as good as Triumphs usually are, I think it will blow the competition out of the water, but we'll just have to wait and see. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out all our other videos here at TFL Bike and head over to tflbike.com. We just got that set up so you can go over there and check out all the latest news, views, and real world reviews in the bike world. See you guys next time.